Hallownest Light Forgotten by William Weng, Knight.
In wilds beyond, they speak your name with reverence and regret, for none could tame our savage souls. Yet you the challenge met under palest watch. You taught, we changed. Base instincts were redeemed, a world you gave to bug and beast as they had never dreamed.
Prologue, Bardoon and the Worm. It wasn't unusual for Bardoon to be making his way through these particular caverns. The wide open space and fresh air from the even more expansive caves beside brought him great peace, though he dared not to enter them. He was quite content where he was. There were few bugs larger than Bardoon, so traveling around was often a challenge. Wriggling himself through rubble often brought more falling rock and destruction than the old bug wanted. What he did want was some quiet and relaxation. These larger caverns brought him that. The tighter spaces were wrought with many, as he called them, nasties, who often sought to bring him harm. Bardoon often wondered if they acted out of spite or malice, but it was most likely nothing more than instinct, for as large and clumsy as Bardoon was, he was also wise, a word he would not use to describe most of his fellows within the caverns. They crawled and fought and ravaged and destroyed and pillaged and... His thoughts began to trail off. He was brought back to the present moment when a large rock, big enough to crush many others, struck his back and smashed into fragments. Bardoon shrugged it off, a slight inconvenience. The falling rock was not the first, and he suspected it would not be the last, for his once peaceful cavern looked like it had been the site of a large battle. No, a war. Rocks cracked and crumbled, and the cavern groaned around him, the once loud howling winds now barely a hum in the thunderous soundscape of the cave. Today, Bardoon would find no peace. A creature, one even larger than Bardoon, had crashed through the cavern walls and lay dying amidst the chaos of its arrival. Indeed, much bigger than Bardoon, so large that for once in his life he felt small and maybe even vulnerable. The large creature hissed and cried, a sound alien and terrible as it writhed around dying. Its long body was stretched and coiled around the caverns, wrapping the rocks in its grasp. A similar shape to Bardoon, long and wide, but that's about where the similarities came to an end. Unlike Bardoon, this creature's skin was hard. It appeared even the sharpest fangs in the strongest jaws wouldn't make a dent. The skin looked built for battle with years of history, crusted into it like a canvas of quakes and gorges. It had no limbs, but its head, if you could call it that, seemed to compensate for the lack of appendages. Its gaping maw, always open, seemed to produce a multitude of teeth that it had used to dig its way through the cavern wall. It had no eyes or even a face. This creature was no bug. Bardoon had heard tales of these things, these higher beings. A worm, a creature said to be as old as time itself. A creature that Bardoon had believed long extinct. It seemed that great change was coming to Bardoon's home. Without warning, the writhing, wriggling, and screaming all stopped, just as quickly as it had all begun. It wasn't like Bardoon to be curious, but with a sight like this, he struggled to resist the urge to investigate. Bardoon's large body began to move. He crawled with his small limbs, bringing himself down to the worm's gaping maw. Inside the mouth, fluids dripped and oozed, but there was little sign of any movement. No breath was felt upon Bardoon's face, only a faint cracking noise coming from deep in the creature. Bardoon took a few crawls back, not knowing what to expect next. His heart pounded. For the first time in a long while, he felt fear. The feeling, however, was quickly dashed when a small creature slinked from the mouth of the great worm. A creature of meager shell, shining bright. The small fellow's shell was a blazing white, so bright, in fact, it created light. His head had two eyes as black as night with a gaze that even made old Bardoon's belly flutter. His head was adorned by what appeared to be spikes circling the top of its scalp and pointing straight up, mirroring the teeth and maw of the large worm. His body, however, was hidden away. Two small gray wings coiled around the small fellow like a cape of metal. As he walked, they dragged behind him, solidifying the illusion. Bardoon hesitated in speaking. He was unsure why. The hearty bug rarely felt any intimidation, but today was a day of firsts. It did not matter, for the small pale fellow spoke first. "Hello there, large one." His voice was loud and clear, like the ringing of a bell. A voice of authority. Bardoon began to move closer. "No, no, please stay there. I shall come to you." The small fellow's wings unfurled, and the brightness of his shell shone even stronger. Bardoon had to shield his eyes. He felt the light fade and brought his eye line back to the small one. The pale creature was now in front of him, gaze still piercing. Bardoon chose to speak next. "Ho ho! Well, you are a small one for sure. Impressive how you climbed from the belly of that great beast. However did you survive in there? You're lucky that creature was on its last legs, for else I fear you wouldn't have become more than a small meal," Bardoon boomed. The small fellow glanced back at the carcass of the worm before turning back to Bardoon. "No, young bug, you are mistaken." Bardoon looked puzzled. "This creature did not come here to die," the small fellow continued. "Change I sought, and here I am, a being of bug and shell just like yourself." Bardoon instinctively took a step back. He had made a mistake. This was no mere mortal. "You are worm?" Bardoon questioned. "I am what I am, and I was what I was, but what I am and what I was is what I will always be. I come searching for bugs, and bugs I have found, for it is my nature." Bardoon listened to the words of the newly transformed worm, his face plastered with concern. We all have a nature, a thing we are born for. Some call it destiny. I prefer instinct. "For isn't that something we all share?" the worm said. Bardoon had lived a long age and heard the tales of worms, his face twisted. "I know of your kin, worm. These caverns do not need any more of your ilk among us. You come here to pull us into your thrall, enslave us, keep us as pets who would shine your shell and build monuments in your image. Compensation for your meager shell, methinks." The small creature seemed unbothered by Bardoon's sudden ranting. He turned to face his cast-off shell and did not turn back to face the bug before he spoke again. "Young bug, the words you speak are not that of untruth, that I can confirm. I am surprised to meet a creature of such wisdom in the caverns of these wilds, especially one with knowledge of my kind. But please do not fear. My body, my shell, my being may be of that caste, but I do not share their intentions. To pull the bugs of these caverns into my thrall, yes, that is what I seek. But not just for love and devotion, but to ascend these creatures and give them more. Life is a precious thing, no? For some bugs, life is long, for others a fleeting moment. Regardless, there should be more than wake, eat, and sleep. I feel a creature with your level of wisdom should understand." Bardoon hesitated. "Pale one, there is little that you could say that would change my view of you and your caste. I have lived in these caverns for many a bygone year, and travelers from the howling wilds frequent our caves. I hear grand tales of kingdoms and citadels, free from base instinct, and ravaged caverns, all under the spell of higher ones like yourself. Every story starts the same, the land thriving, a utopia of bliss and advancement, but every story ends the same too. Collapse, death, and destruction, the likes unseen by any living being. You promise a land of hope, but I fear the only hope we will end up having is that you took a different path on this day." Bardoon waited for the pale creature to reply, but he spoke no words. Instead, he began to walk, disappearing inside the shell of his former self. Bardoon's head rested on the cavern floor. The creaking and groaning of the environment had ceased, and the rocks finally had begun to settle. The pale creature had disappeared back into his shell a short while ago and had yet to return. Perhaps he had taken Bardoon's words to heart and chose to rot away within its own shell. Bardoon was disappointed to see the pale thing return not long after this thought. Before Bardoon had a chance to fully raise his head, the Pale One was talking. "You have spoken a great truth, young bug. I have made adjustments within my old shell. Be the time comes that the worst was to happen, these caverns will welcome a new ruler. I apologize for the length of my absence. It has been a while since I dabbled in runes, and this specific set of spells is taxing on my soul. Pale Thing, I still suggest you leave these caverns. My peace is my own, and I fear that it will be fleeting with you within them." Bardoon turned away and began to take his leave. "Young bug, you seem troubled. While I do not sense fear in you, I can sense your need for peace, the thing you desire above all. I know you get little of it. A bug of your size in caverns these tight, I can see why you spend your time here." Bardoon cocked his head at the worm. "What is your point, Pale Thing?" Bardoon's leave-taking had been halted. Perhaps once again curiosity had gripped him. "There is little to eat in these large caverns here, so I'm guessing hunger and water drives you deeper into this place." "It does, Pale One. If you wish to buy my loyalty with food, I think you have already failed before you have begun. You misunderstand me? For what is your name, young bug?" Bardoon fully turned back around to face the Pale One. "I am called Bardoon, and my childhood has long since passed." "Ah, well, young Bardoon, for I have lived an age even compared to you. I see your age, a child you are not. But my years would be enough to put a wrinkle on your face even in all yours. All those years, traveling into the caverns in search of food, simply to live. I doubt your time there is a pleasant one." "No, Pale One, it is not. Many nasties attack and food is scarce." "Then think of these caverns after my influence, a bustling haven filled with bugs of higher thought, with deep communities and friendships. Wouldn't you rather be in caves like those?" The idea of it did sound good in Bardoon's head, however he knew better. He knew this would never end well. "Pale One, I know you have the foresight, as do all of your caste. I'm sure you foresee ruin and torment. I know you try to convince me, but can you convince yourself? What good to see a demise unavoidable? I will play no role in your kingdom. It is clear you have been drawn to the bugs here, and yes, instinct and feral nature is thriving within the majority of these caves, but you'll already find those with wisdom living here too. If you cannot convince old Bardoon to your side, what makes you think the hundreds in there will follow you?" The Pale One held his breath before continuing. "Tell me of these tribes who own these caverns already." "Pale One, no one ruler claims these lands, but other higher beings are already within these walls. You may be the first worm, but some of your higher caste have already laid claim here. To the west you will find the great green lands of Un. I have never laid eyes on this place myself, but I hear words of lush green caverns spawned from the mind of Great Un. It is said she even gave life to the roots of the place. In the fungal groves you will find mushrooms sharing lives through one powerful hive mind, sprouting from their fungal core. Within these same caves you will find the Mantis tribe, old proud warriors led by their 4 great lords. They slay any and all who enter their lands uninvited. The moths of crystal and peak pray to a god so old its true name is said to be lost. They spend their lives devoted to dreams and the light. I also hear rumors of a secretive hive in these lands too. I believe them to be close by, but I myself have not been able to confirm this. not to mention the far lands of Deepnest, a vile place where the most nasties live. Recently, a clan of spiders from a distant land have laid claim to the nest and rule it under their queen. Bardoon looked exhausted. He never spoke this much, not even in his own head. A rest I require, leave me, Pale One. As I said, whatever you have planned for these lands, I will play no part. Thank you, Bardoon. May you rest well. There was a hint of sincerity in the worm's voice. As Bardoon returned to his perch, high in the caverns, he saw the pale creature surrounded by runes. A sharp flash and he was gone. In the coming days, the worm's cast-off shell began to shed. White flakes of ash coated Bardoon's caverns. Peace did return, but the pale being did not. Bardoon wondered if he would see him again one day, although he hoped he would not.